Okay, box office top 10, assuming your headphones are all right now.
They are all right, thank you for asking.
What was the problem?
That you were louder than me.
Or you could just make an adjustment.
No, because the volume thing turns us both down, and then you would still be louder than me, but just we'd both be quieter.
You could bring this up with your therapist, I think.
What, you think there's not a whole list of things that need to go ahead of that? Like me still being cross about my Amstrad PCW from 1989.
That's true. Yeah. You should maybe bring that up first. Anyway, box office top 10 at 29, Nostalgia.
Which I think's an interesting film. I'm not quite as wowed by it as everybody else, but I think what it does do is a very interesting job of showing the way that past and present are completely intertwined and coexist simultaneously.
And number 21, The Sun, but it's nowhere in America. Let's say we'll defer that.
Yes, because we've got an interview with
Hugh Jackman coming up later, and Mark reviewed it last week, and we'll revisit that this week.
Yeah.
But plenty, and Hugh Jackman, as you will have seen on the television, is always a great guest.
There's a photograph that you posted on social media of you and him. Wow, he looks fantastic.
Yes, he does. And also,
I'm standing next to him.
I'm standing next to him. And we're both wearing the same black outfits.
You're cosplaying as each other.
So The Sun's at 21. Number 12, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. This from Chris.
Oh, great. There's an email. Cool.
Chris Rundell. About a year ago, I saw the first trailer for Marcel the Shell with Shoes On and immediately fell in love. And after finally getting to see it this weekend, I was not let down. Marcel is just wonderful. The film made me laugh, moved me, and has become an all-time favourite of mine. But I'd like to shine a light on the film's animation, which I think has been severely overlooked. Although the film's animation is stop motion, it presents itself as a handheld documentary where the camera movement is unpredictable and ever-changing. This is not as simple as the film makes it look, as the whole reason stop motion is possible is because the camera has to stay still as the movements are made. Although the film occasionally makes use of a fake camera shake effect added in post, there are many shots where someone is holding a real camera that is moving in and out of focus with a changing perspective, and yet Marcel continued to move. The way the film is able to blend these seemingly contradictory formats is astonishing. After watching all the behind-the-scenes footage I could find, I still couldn't really tell you how they did it. But one thing is clear, the team put an enormous amount of effort into making the animation feel as natural and incidental as it does. And as a result, I watched Marcel and completely believed that he was real. Somehow, the little shell had come to life, and the magic the film had created allowed its emotional beats to sing even louder. Tickety-tonk, down with all the bad stuff and up with some good. Thank you, Chris.
Well, in honour of that email, the director of photography for the film is Bianca Klein, but the stop-motion director of photography is Eric Adkins. I think the film's terrific. I think that one of the most important things about it for me was that whilst watching it, I just completely didn't think about, I mean, obviously we talked about this stop motion, but I didn't think about the format. What I thought was, I completely believe in this character, and I actually believe that what the film is doing is talking about things that are very important, such as the nature of life and death and separation and families, but just doing it in this really generous, cute, funny way. And Isabella Rossellini's voice as Marcel's grandmother is just wonderful. No, I really, really liked it, and I hope people go and see it.
Number 10 in the UK, not charted in America, is The Whale.
That's not charted because it's been and gone already.
But okay,
no, but just because it was successful, as we were saying before. Obviously, at the BAFTAs, Brendan Fraser didn't win Best Actor. That went to...
it went to your man, who was great. It was. I was very pleased.
Yeah, but there was. I mean, I was saying right up until the last moment, I thought it was either going to be Brendan Fraser, or Colin Farrell. So the fact that it actually went to Austin Butler, who I think is brilliant,
fantastic,
was
really a great performance. And I do think when you compare both films, Elvis and Banshees, both fantastic. He's working harder.
No, I agree.
He's working hard.
I mean, I agree, but I was just kind of delighted that he won. And anybody who I didn't see the ceremony because I was in Berlin, I just saw a couple of highlights. Austin Butler now does talk like Elvis full time.
Plane is at number 9.
Which, Gerard Butler, Plane, Island, Terrorists.
That's it.
Runny, jumpy, shooty. It's good fun.
Women Talking is at number 8. Mark and Simon, this is Jane Higgins. Long-time listener, colonial commoner, New Zealand. I want to thank Mark for recommending Women Talking.
Great.
I found it profoundly moving. There's been some review talk of it being too stagey, but I'd like to offer a different take. The night I went to see it, a dear friend of mine had passed away. My friend was a Dominican nun of many years, a woman of deep faith and prayer. The older women in Women Talking, especially Judith Ivory playing Agatha, reminded me very much of my friend in their way of talking, cadence, tone and language. I'd like to suggest that Miriam Toews, I think that is the novelist.
It's actually pronounced Taves.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
thank
weirdly,
you.
yeah.
Miriam Taves, the novelist, and Sarah Polley, the screenwriter, have got it right. That women who have spent their lives in prayer and devotion to a faith and spirituality may indeed speak with the careful deliberation and wisdom we hear in this wonderful film. Many thanks for your brilliant podcast presence over the years. Down with the Nazis, up with bluehead feminists, Jane Higgins in New Zealand.
That's fascinating. I've read a number of emails and posts by women who themselves have Mennonite background who said that one of the things that Miriam Toews gets right, obviously from her own personal experiences, is the tenor of the conversation, that is actually very, very accurate. I also think that it's a mistake to read something as stagey because dialogue doesn't feel natural to your ear. It's to do with whether it's natural to the circumstance. And as I was trying to say in my review, and I'm so glad that you saw and loved the film, it feels like it could be stagey because it's basically, a kind of a trial that plays out in a hayloft. It could be, and yet it isn't. It is profoundly cinematic, to do with the way in which she drains and fills in the colour, the way in which she uses close-up, the way in which she frames the faces of the characters during the debate. I mean, I've seen it 3 times now, and I love it. And I love Hilda Gudnadottir's score, and it so should have been nominated.
Titanic is at number 7. I think we've done that. How amazing it's still there.
Yeah.
Knock at the Cabin is at 6, number 5 in America.
I think it's one of Shyamalan's weaker films. Robbie thinks it's one of Shyamalan's best, as always with this director. Divisive responses, but is still managing to find a popular audience.
Number 5 here, Epic Tales.
Rubbish.
Number 2 in America, but number 4 in the UK, Avatar: The Way of Water. I think we've already established. See it in 1-hour chunks with John Wick in between.
Can I just say, in a response to that, see it in the cinema if you're going to see it, in which case you can't do it in 1-hour chunks with John Wick in between.
An imaginative cinema complex somewhere could have John Wick, John Wick 1, 2 and 3 running in thing, and then Avatar, pause, go next door, come out. I think it is recommended.
I have to say, I have been in multiplexes in which they've played films that are essentially what you're talking about, like a mashup of a whole bunch of other films that are playing on the same screen.
3 here, 3 in the States is Magic Mike's Last Dance.
A crushing disappointment.
Alison in Durham. Long-term listener, Vanguardista, sometime emailer, though never yet read out. Here we go.
Okay.
I, like Mark, really enjoyed the first 2 Magic Mike films, and I have to agree that the latest instalment, Magic Mike's Last Dance, is a disappointment. The plot makes no sense. The voiceover is truly terrible.
Awful.
And I don't believe in the romantic subplot.
Neither
the best
do
thing
I
I can say for it is that Channing Tatum still knows how to dance. I mean, we kind of assume that's the case. The film is essentially one long advert for Magic Mike Live. The last third is a condensed version of the stage show with dances and scenes copied almost move for move. Ultimately, it may help fill Mr. Tatum's coffers some more, but it doesn't add anything to the movie experience.
I think Mr. Tatum's coffers are fairly full anyway.
Yes.
Off, quack, honk.
Yeah. How coffers? That's an interesting
I know. I was
thing.
just thinking exactly the same thing. Why is it to fill your coffers?
Fill your coffers.
The other one I don't get is fill your boots.
Speaking of which, at number 2, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish.
Wow.
You queued up the boots and I ran with them.
I would say their emails, yeah?
Yeah, Lewis Dunn. Writing this the day after seeing Puss in Boots: The Last Wish last night for Valentine's Day, we have somehow made it almost a tradition to go see very un-Valentine's-y films every year. And I wanted to write in to say I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
The film is a collection of rollicking, adventurous and funny set pieces that simultaneously make the most of the fairy tale setting whilst also not feeling bound to it. The animation had a wonderful blend of styles that made what would otherwise be perfunctory boss fights, action sequences into something genuinely exciting and enjoyable. What stuck with me most, however, is just how much fun it was to spend time with these braggadocios. Is that right? Braggadocios?
That's how I would say it,
okay.
Yeah.
Charming and heroic protagonist. Something that has been sorely lacking in cinema of late is a swashbuckling hero, someone who is unambiguously here for the adventure and happy to be on it. Puss in Boots is obviously a parody of the likes of Zorro, but given that we haven't seen Zorro since 1998, I'll happily take this cat's joyous presence, someone who I enjoy watching just being heroic. The only part of the film that had me grimacing was the threat that Puss might bump into Shrek again. DreamWorks, do not make this mistake. With this film, you've made Puss into a far more appealing franchise, and I would happily watch his antics for many films to come. That's from Lewis Dunn.
Okay, I mean, I'm just slightly surprised because one of the sort of main plot points is that he loses his braggadocio or whatever that word is. I think Trump used that in a speech once, that word.
It's got too many syllables.
Too many syllables, Your Majesty. And becomes uncertain because faced with the prospect that he only has one life left, he kind of loses his heroism and then has to learn to get, if he's goes on a quest to get his life back. Look, we've had many emails now from people who have absolutely loved this film. I didn't, and clearly I'm out of step with our listeners. But there we are. I'm surprised by how much it's resonated with people. I really am, because I didn't get much.
Maybe it's one of those that I think I mentioned before. You might watch it again at some stage.
Yeah, sure.
Go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Number one, and as we say occasionally, very number one. I think looking at the weekend, the amount of money it's taken more than everything else put together. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, proof. It's number one here and number one in the States, proof that critics have absolutely no power.
Yeah. The one thing that will be interesting about this, I mean, I thought it was absolute garbage. And the general response seems to have been that people have not liked it, despite the fact that it's gone in at number one, partly because it's part of a franchise that has that kind of power. The really interesting thing will be how fast it drops, okay? I would think that this is going to drop like a stone in the next couple of weeks, because I think it's an absolute car crash of a film. But do we have emails?
Mark from sunny Hertfordshire.
Okay.
There were 2 or 3 moments during Quantumania when I wondered how on earth the soft power of winning Strictly Come Dancing had propelled Natasha Kaplinsky to becoming president of the BBFC, but it was only 1 or 2. It is a very CGI-heavy film with lots of creatures and people into whom presumably a lot of thought was put, or wasted, since pretty much zero explanation was given as to who or what they were. In many ways, the film was like an extended bar fight in the Star Wars bar, which I think
sure, I said, yeah.
They might have been the good guys, they might not sure I really cared, and neither did the main protagonist, since having been told that stopping the bad guy would mean many more even worse bad guys doing even worse bad things, he went about stopping the bad guy anyway. It seems, and here I think we're getting to the heart of the matter,
okay.
It seems that being an Avenger means you can do what feels okay at the time, especially if it helps you bond with your daughter, without really thinking about the consequences for the universe. There is no jeopardy as a result. The central problem with this phase of the MCU is that in the multiverse, nothing matters, because there's always another verse in which everything is okay.
Yeah.
The sacrifices of earlier characters are forgotten, and we're left with a whole bunch of people that we don't really care about because they don't really care about us. Other than that, it was quite a good movie. Anyway, but it is absolutely the truth.
Yeah.
And as Jonathan Majors, as Kang the Destroyer, takes over, all the other movies go, well, what about them? And they don't matter.
Do you agree with me that what's going to be significant is how fast it drops now?
I suppose it was always going to go in at number one.
It was always going to go in at number one. That, yes, absolutely. And I think that's it. And I think I would be really, really surprised. And I stand to be corrected on this if it doesn't fall really significantly in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
If you've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, maybe you liked it a bit more than Mark in sunny Hertfordshire and Mark in sunny studios in London.
And let's be honest, Simon in Old Street as well. You thought it was rubbish.
Yeah, I thought it was. I laughed out loud more often than you did.
Fine.
That's so that,
Okay.
That's that really. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's Take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.